Hi guys, so we've decided to go live a little bit early today to give you an introduction into some of the IELTS lessons. So we're actually going to start with lesson 1 today, and lesson 1 will be speaking. And this lesson is just going to help you think of new ideas and better things you can do in your speaking part 1 exam to help you feel more confident and to get a better grade in your IELTS exam. Obviously, you can watch this video again at a later time and you can stop and listen to the activities again. If you have any questions during the lesson, just wait until the end and I will answer them all at the end. That just means that we can continue and flow through the lesson, okay? So welcome. I think we've got people from all over the world, so hope you're all having a lovely day or night. I think it's the night in some parts of the world. Okay, so we're just going to start with lesson 1. Okay. So lesson 1, introduction to IELTS. Okay. So the aims for today's lesson are for you to know the format of the IELTS speaking test, for you to think about what is needed for speaking part 1, and for you guys to try a variety of speaking part 1 questions, because we all know practice makes perfect. So I would like you to spend 1 minute now answering these this one question. What do you know about the IELTS speaking exam? So take 1 minute now, make some notes. Do you know anything about the IELTS speaking exam? If you don't know anything, that's fine. Okay, guys, here are 8 questions for you to answer. Take 2-3 minutes and choose A, B, or C for each question, and then I will show you the answers. Okay, guys, so I'm just going to go through the answers on the next slide, okay? So question 1, the answer is B. Question 2, A. 3, A. 4, C. 5, C. 6, B. 7, A. And 8, C. Okay. So what I would like you to do now is to draw this diagram in your notebook, okay? And this is looking at the everyday topics that might be asked about in your speaking test. And this is for you to start thinking about what topics may come up, okay? So I have written on this diagram family and food because they are everyday topics. We always talk about our family, how many people are in our family, if our family's big, small, if we have any children, if we are married. And we always talk about food. Everybody loves food. So what I would like you guys to do now is to add other topics to the diagram. What other topics do you think the examiner might ask you about? Take 2 minutes now to add topics to the diagram. So if you just give yourself 30 seconds more, see if there's any other topics that you think might come up in speaking part 1. Okay, I'm going to show you a list of topics that I think might come up in the speaking part 1. Tick them off if you have the same. If you have others, that doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means they didn't fit on my list, okay? So I've added things like music, home, TV, my town, learning English, ambitions, jobs, transport, hobbies, family. And you could add and add and add to that list. Remember, speaking part 1 is about you. And they're trying to get to know you, as somebody said in the chat box. It's like icebreaker. The examiner wants to find out about you. And each of these topics you can speak about in relation to you. So what I would like you guys to do is to have a look at these 3 questions. Now, in the IELTS exam, it's really important that your answer is not too long, not too short, and it's just right. Okay. So for each of the questions below, there are 3 answers, A, B, and C. Read each answer and make some notes. Do you think it's a good answer? It's too long, it's too short, or it's perfect? Okay. Give yourself 3 or 4 minutes now, and I will come back to you and we will look at why each answer is good or bad. Okay, guys, just take one more minute. So if you're a little unsure, I want you to just read the question and read the 3 answers and think which answer is a good answer, which answer is a bad answer, and which answer is perfect. Okay? I will answer all of your questions at the end. Okay? Okay, guys, let's have a look at all of the questions together and decide which of the answers are perfect, okay? Okay, so if we look at question 1, do you come from a small family or a large family? And we have the 3 answers. We've got large, there are my parents, me and my brothers. Sorry, me and my 2 brothers and 2 sisters. B, large. C, large, there's my mother, Anna. She's a teacher. My father, Paul, is an engineer. I have 2 older brothers, Phil and Dave. They are at university. And then my 2 younger sisters, Chris and Helen. They are still at school. So which of those answers do we think is good? B is too short. C is too long. A is perfect. We've answered the question, but we have also given a sentence which shows the examiner you can use your English. If you just say large, the examiner does not know if you can speak in sentences. So try not to use one-word answers, okay? Then we've got number 2. What is the area like where you live? A, it's boring. There isn't anything to do. There are no shops or parks or cinemas or restaurants or discos or sports centres. B, it's boring. C, it's quite boring. There isn't much to do. No shops or cinemas or anything. B, again, is just one phrase. It's boring. The examiner doesn't know if you know how to make sentences more difficult. A is a list. You're just showing the examiner you can list. There are no shops or parks or cinemas or restaurants or discos or sports centres. But C is perfect. It's quite boring, so you're showing the examiner you know how to say very, quite, a little. And then you're also giving some examples. There isn't much to do. No shops or cinemas or anything. Okay? Finally, we've got question 3. What do you find most difficult about learning English? The grammar, especially the tenses. Sometimes I don't know the right one to use. B, the grammar. The tenses are very difficult and I don't know when to use the present perfect or the past tense, or when to use the continuous or simple, or when to use will. Very difficult. Or C, the grammar. Of course, the perfect answer is A. It's medium-sized sentence. It's answered the question, they've said the grammar, but also they've given an example. So in these 3 questions, the good or the best answers are 1, A, 2C, and 3A. Okay? Senku, yes, they are available after the lesson. Okay, so you can watch them at another time. Okay, guys. So remember, in speaking part 1, no lists, no one-word answers. You need to show the examiner you can speak English. Okay? Remember these points. Try and sound natural. In real life, if somebody said to you, "How are you?" and you said, "Fine," and both of you stopped speaking, it wouldn't be normal. Usually there is a conversation, or you would say, "How are you?" "Fine, thanks. A little bit tired." "What about you?" Usually we speak in sentences. Also, don't make the answers too long. "How are you?" "Fine. Yesterday I went swimming. The day before I went running, and today I'm a little bit tired." The person doesn't need to know all of that information. Don't memorize answers. If in the exam you are sitting and you are trying to remember complete sentences from your mind that you have studied before the exam, it doesn't sound natural. And also it's more difficult because if you forget one part, it can stop you remembering the other parts. And finally, don't give too much unnecessary detail. The examiner doesn't need to know everything that happened yesterday. Okay? And finally, don't list things. Anybody can list, but we want you to show them your sentences. Here are my answers to the questions. Do you come from a small family or a large family? A small family, there are 5 of us. My mum, my dad, brother, sister, and me. What is the area like where you live? Where I live is beautiful. There are many parks and it's very quiet. It is also easy to get to the city centre. What do you find most difficult about learning Spanish? For me, it's the grammar. I find it difficult to form the different verbs and to know when to use them. Okay. So what I would like you guys to do now is to ask yourself these questions. If you live with someone who can ask you the questions, that's great, okay? But if you don't, ask yourself, and for the next 3-4 minutes, make notes of your answers. What would you say in the exam, okay? So I'm going to give you 3 minutes now. Just make some notes. Sorry guys, let me go back to the questions because you can't see them. Here are the questions. So make some notes on a piece of paper or in your head. How would you answer the question? Okay, guys, you have 1 more minute. Okay, guys, so just have a look at what you've written, okay? And just think to yourself, is this a good answer? Is it okay? Or is it too long? Once we finish the lesson, I will give some of you a chance to answer the questions, okay? So let's just have a look now on how to get points in the exam. What do you need to include in your answers to get the best marks? So in part 1, the examiner is looking for fluency and coherence. Fluency means how your answer is flowing. Does it sound natural? And does it make sense? Okay. Then number 2, lexical resource basically means, are you using different types of vocabulary, or are you just using simple vocabulary? Then we've got grammatical range and accuracy. If you can only speak in the present simple all the way through the exam, this might keep your score low. But if you try and use the past, the present, the future conditionals, and if they are correct, then you're more likely to get higher bands in the exam. And finally, pronunciation, okay? Try your best to pronounce words in the correct way, okay? So, I'm going to help you with another little activity now, okay? Now, for you to do well in the exam, as we've just seen, let's just go back, looking at number 2, lexical resource. That is very important. It's very important that you have different amounts of vocabulary and that you don't use the same words over and over again throughout your test. So let's have a look at this next activity. You can continue and use this format for the rest of your life. This is just a way of recording vocabulary. What you need to do now is to divide your piece of paper, any piece of paper, or in your phone, if you can, into 5 categories: holidays and travel, cities and transport, TV programs, types of novels, a novel is a book, and work, job, okay? And then at the top of the page in the box, we have many words, many phrases connected to the topics. You need to match the phrases with the topic. For example, beach holiday is connected with holidays and travel. Sport, what could that be connected with? Is it connected with a holiday? Cities and transport? TV programs? Types of novels? Or work and jobs? Now, this is a little bit more difficult than the activity before. So I want you to spend about 6 minutes doing this activity. This activity was taken from this website at the bottom, okay? Okay. So spend 6 minutes now matching the words with the topic. If you've just joined the chat, what you're doing is matching the words and phrases at the top, putting them into the categories. Pedestrian precinct is parts of the city where no cars are allowed and only people can walk. We will look at the pronunciation of these phrases once you have finished also. I think what we'll do, guys, is some of you have a few issues with the meaning of some of the words. So if I just go through the meaning, then you should be able to put them into their specific places. So the first one that I've been asked a question about is pedestrian precincts, and that's a place where people are only allowed, no vehicles, no cars. Unfortunately, sometimes cyclists will go through, so you have to be a little bit careful. Then we've got made redundant. At the moment in the world, with COVID and job problems and the world's economy as it is, many people are made redundant. And this is when your company says, we don't have a job for you anymore. We need you to leave. However, we will pay your salary for 6 months or 3 months or sometimes 1 month. So it means you don't have a job anymore. Okay. Okay, guys, just give you 1 more minute and then I will show you the answers and you can tick or check your answers, okay? Okay, let's have a look at the answers together and then we'll go through the pronunciation of each word, okay? So I have written them on for you. So we've got under holidays and travel, beach holiday, book online, eco-tourism, long-haul flight, package holiday. Cities and transport, we've got public transport, pedestrian precincts, suburbs, crowded, rush hour. Then TV programs, we've got movies, documentaries, soaps, current affairs and sport. Then over here on the novels, we've got crime, fantasy, sci-fi, thriller, romantic. Usually the topics for novels can also be the topics for films or movies, okay? And finally, work. Made redundant, look for a job, part-time, salary, and job satisfaction. So let's have a think now about the meaning of each of them, okay? So I hope that wasn't too difficult for you. So if we book online, it means we don't go to a shop. We use something like booking.com or another website, and we can put in our information, where we want to go, when we want to go, and we can buy tickets. Ecotourism is tourism which is about the environment. So maybe you're going somewhere to help plant trees, to help the world. Then if I wanted to go to your countries, so I'm not sure which countries we've got to here, but for example, my sister lives in Dubai. So if I wanted to visit my sister from England, that would be a long haul flight. It means it crosses continents and time zones, okay? And finally, a package holiday. A package holiday is a holiday where you pay a price and everything is included. Transport, accommodation, sometimes food, sometimes drinks, okay? So it means when you arrive, you can just relax, okay? Then we've got cities and transport, public transport, trains, buses, trams, taxis. Pedestrian precincts. Pedestrians are people who are walking, okay? Suburbs. If you live in the city centre, you don't live in the suburbs. The suburbs are the places outside of the city centre. They are still part of the city, but they are just out of the city centre, usually a little bit more green or less shops, okay? Then we've got crowded. If you imagine going to Tokyo and walking down a street, the main street in Tokyo, where there are millions and millions of people, we could say it is crowded. And finally, rush hour. Maybe you have seen the film Rush Hour. Rush hour in England is usually between 7:30 and 9 o'clock in the morning, and between 3:30 and 6 o'clock in the afternoon. It's the time when there are the most cars on the road because people are going to school, going to work, and in the afternoon, coming home from school, coming home from work. Then we've got movies. Movies is a synonym for film. Think about The Lion King or Harry Potter, Titanic. They are movies. Documentaries are real life. Maybe you will see someone like David Attenborough in the mountains showing you elephants. This is a documentary. It's real life. Then we've got soaps. Soaps are fictional programs. Usually there will be a family, some friends, and they will live life like normal people. But every day people will watch this on the television. But it's not real. It's fiction. Then we have current affairs. This could be the news, or it could be politics. It's what is happening now in the world. Current affairs. And finally, sport. Football, golf, cricket, tennis, sport. Then we've got types of novels. Crime. When we have crime, it usually involves the police. The police need to use this, like Sherlock Holmes, to find the criminal. Then we've got fantasy. Fantasy is what you can imagine. It's not real. Something like Harry Potter, Avatar. Then we've got sci-fi, which is science fiction, which is not real. Something like Star Wars, Star Trek. we have thriller. A thriller is something that makes you think, oh, what will happen next? Okay. And finally, romantic. Something like Titanic, where they fall in love. Titanic is very sad, but it's also romantic. Maybe Romeo and Juliet. Okay. And the last section we've got work. Made redundant. Many people have been made redundant now, and it means their job is no longer available, so they don't work anymore. Look for a job. If you don't have a job, you can look in the newspaper, on the internet for a job. Part-time. So if I just work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that's part-time. If I work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that is full-time. Next, we have salary. That is the money you receive every year for your job. And finally, job satisfaction. So, for example, for me, I love teaching. When students pass exams, when students go to university, I feel very, very happy. I'm very proud of them. So that means I have job satisfaction. Okay, so a lot of vocabulary there. Oh yes, Shamim, good. We could also add drama to the vocabulary list here. Okay, so can you see, you can do that list with anything. You could write my town and write a list of vocabulary. Maybe you could say food and write a list of phrases like typical food. In England, the typical food is probably fish and chips. Maybe if I was in Saudi Arabia, the typical food could be kibsa. Maybe if I was in Japan, the typical food could be sushi. Okay? So you could make phrases that will help you remember this vocabulary for your exam. Here are 3 other topics that you can also do the same for. Okay? So let me give you 2 minutes now to write 3 words for each topic. Thank you, Fatima. I forgot to unmute myself. I will go back. I was talking to myself. Okay. Right. So here we have some sample questions for speaking part 1. Can you hear me now? Yeah? Okay. So it says, tell me about your friends. Do you spend a lot of time with them? What do you do together? Where do you meet? And how do you keep in contact with your friends? So usually they will ask you one question, you will answer. They will ask you another, you will answer. Remember, you have a maximum of 4 to 5 minutes. So if your answers are longer, then you probably won't have as many questions. But if your answers are shorter, the examiner will keep asking you questions to fill the time. Okay. Right. So here we have some other questions. So just read through them. Okay, I'm just going to move through these quite quickly, but don't worry, the video will be on Facebook after, and you can go back and write the questions if you need to. We've also got reading, okay? Television. Obviously, guys, if you don't watch the television, please do not say, I don't watch TV. You need to say something like, I don't usually watch TV. However, if I do, I like to watch scientific documentaries. Just use your imagination, okay? The examiner is not going to come to your house to check. And here I have given you many, many, many questions taken from Take IELTS British Council. The link is at the bottom of the page, okay? And they have put some questions together so that you can look at them and you can practice them at home, okay? Now, what I would recommend that you do is every time you answer a question in English, try and record yourself on your mobile phone. Now, maybe you don't want to listen to yourself. If you don't have a mobile phone, that's fine. Try and ask your friend to listen to you, but make sure they can speak some English, okay? And then I want you to think about your answer. Did I answer the question? Did I speak English all the time? I know sometimes if you forget a word, it's easy to just say it in your language, but try and say it in English. Then think, did I speak A, too quickly, B, too slowly, or C, about right? And did I use a variety of vocabulary? Remember, the examiner wants to know that you can speak English. They don't just want you to say yes, no. That is English, but that's not speaking English. Okay, and finally, if you made a mistake in the exam, did you correct yourself? So look, I have made a mistake in the bottom of this sentence. So I need to correct that, okay? So this is speaking part 1 that we're talking about, okay? So remember, build your vocabulary. You need to make strong foundations and continue building. Your vocabulary is like a tree. It should keep growing and keep growing. Answer the question. If they say to you, do you come from a big family or a small family? Do not say, yes, I have a dog. Okay, make sure you answer the question. And finally, guys, relax. You are doing so well with your English, but you need to relax and enjoy the exam. Okay? So it has been wonderful teaching you this afternoon. So I'm just going to stop sharing for a moment. And this is your chance to ask me any questions in the chat box that you need to. Okay? So let's remove that. Yeah, that's just me. So does anybody have any questions they want to ask? Just type it in the chat box now and I'll answer you. Silence. Okay. Thank you, Noor. Have any of you done speaking part 1 before? Have you done the exam? So Gulam, you have said tense. So tense is using the past, the present, the future. Okay. Fatima, I would recommend that you just read as much as you can. Read something that you can understand. You know, you don't have to read Shakespeare in English. But when you find new words, if you keep in your, imagine, let me show you on this piece of paper. So if you have a notebook, and in your notebook you have different topics, and maybe this is your food vocabulary and your sport vocabulary, and every time you find a new word, add it to the group. But make sure that you understand if it is a verb, a noun, an adjective. And try and use it in sentences. Try and write some sentences with it. Okay? I hope that's helped you, Fatima. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, Shamim, so I will speak to my manager and we will see if we can organise some speaking practices for you guys. I'm not sure how we would do that with the technology and the software, but if it's possible, we will organise it, okay? Any more questions before I leave you? So I think, Fatima, what you need to do is just remember in the exam that you can do it. And, you know, just try and keep your sentences simple. So, you know, think from what I can see that you're writing, you know, your level is probably quite high. In the exam, just remember you can do this. Take a deep breath and just try and answer the question. Don't think, how can I do this? What can I do this? Just keep it simple, not too simple, but try not to overcomplicate things, and that will help you. Okay, Nabi, so I will check how I can do that, and maybe we can do that next week. Okay, so tomorrow's lesson, we're going to do speaking and some writing, okay? So I will be back on here at 1 o'clock UK time tomorrow. And if that time changes, we will let you know before, but I will make an event now for the page and you guys can check the time of the event. Okay? Thank you very much, guys. And I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.